Hey, Don's fans, we're back with Tim Derksen. So on March 1st, you had scored a team high 19 points, leading Freeburg to a blowout victory over your opponent. You improved Freeburg's record 19-1, and then boom, you're told you got to get out of here. Borders are going to close. You get home and you're thinking this whole time, man, I can't believe COVID has ruined my season. But then there's silver lining in that because you're with your family who falls upon hard times. Your dad has a scare on the golf course. Your mother loses her father, your grandfather. Just talk about the blessing of, hey, listen, I lose my season, but at least I'm home with my family.
Yeah, I mean, initially you're going from, okay, I'm playing professional basketball, getting paid to do that, and on the verge of winning, another championship, and it kind of hits you, like a brick wall, and I had gotten home and my grandpa went into the hospital and he came out of the hospital and we kind of knew, okay, this is going to kind of be a downhill slide from here. And I hadn't, like I said, I hadn't spent very much time with him since I had been in high school because I had been at USF for 4 years and I went and played. And the most I'm home is 1 month out of the whole entire year. And it was, yeah, you never wish COVID upon, any society. And this has been a extremely difficult situation that hasn't been fun for anybody, but it's given me the opportunity to spend a lot of time with my family that I haven't had in the last 8 years. And if this didn't happen, I wouldn't have been able, my grandpa, who knows if he would have been able to live the rest of his life comfortably at home around his family. I wouldn't have been able to see him. I wouldn't have been able to get back for that funeral. And we had been super close my whole entire life. He was a guy that came to every game when I was a kid, every high school game, came to a lot of USF games. And it was special to be able to get that last time with him and share that with him and kind of help him live his last few days the way he'd want to live them. And that was it's emotional, but and then again, with my dad too, it's been a roller coaster of emotions, and I can't remember ever being put in a situation like this where as many negative things has happened all at once. But it's one of those things you like everyone's going through. You learn from it. You um, do the best you can, and the more you're with family, the more you're spending time with people and the people that are close to you. The easier it is.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah, and I am sorry for that loss. And just to be clear, your dad did have what we're calling a stroke on the golf course, but he made a full recovery, just so people
Yeah.
know, which is great. So he can now attend with you at Amphi while you train and get ready for possibly an upcoming season. I mean, let's just talk a little bit about Amphi. I mean, you were a high school player there from 2009 to 12. You helped Amphi go on 114 wins, 16 losses run, almost unmatched in Tucson prep basketball history, and you won the 2011 state championship. So, this is kind of a home for you. Just talk about, what you're going to do during COVID times to kind of get ready if you get that call again to go back on the court.
I mean, I'm just staying as ready as I can. There are a lot of benefits to actually not being able to practice and work out all the time. I think, as athletes, we kind of take for granted a lot of things when it comes to playing sports. We haven't had a situation where we literally can't go play sports in our entire lives. And, but in my mind, I mean, it's made it that much more enjoyable. And, hopefully one day this whole thing passes. And, at some point when we have that first game again or that first practice, I'm just kind of imagining how, awesome that's going to be, how much the fans are going to appreciate being at the game and how much the players are going to appreciate just being able to play that game again. But I mean, whether it's like recovering from injuries or realigning your own personal goals or values, I mean, just taking a small step back and kind of finding that passion and that love for a game. I think as athletes, we kind of get caught up in those losses and individual failures. It becomes easy to forget like why we love the game in the first place.
Yeah.
So even though I'm not able to like work out and train and do a lot of the things that I'm, been used to doing for 26 years, I'm kind of finding that there's a lot of other benefits that I never really realized from not being able to work out and not being able to play that I think is going to play a big part in future successes. And whether that's, on the basketball court next season, our fingers, knock on wood, or in going to grad school or getting a job with, a finance firm or coaching at some point, this is something that's going to benefit all of us down the road.
Yeah. Well, and you had mentioned finance, and it's always great that you have a plan B. And one of the things that was said in this article is that you were inspired by 1990s Arizona basketball player Joe McClain, who has gone on to be a financial advisor. They call him the money whisperer to the super rich NBA elite. So just your thoughts on that.
It kind of all started when I was at USF a little bit. I would say that was kind of the foundation of it. Just being one of the finance capitals of the world and having a lot of friends and family that work in that business in that area kind of got me started on it. I can't say that I was super interested or passionate about it at the time, but it wasn't until I went overseas and kind of made my own money that I realized how important it was and how passionate I could be about it, specifically in the sports world. You're playing with so many different players and a lot of Americans from all different kinds of places. And so often we hear about all these professional athletes in the NBA, MLB, NFL that are making millions of dollars. And kind of the common occurrence with that is they all kind of blow it on different things, whether that be buying a bunch of houses, buying a bunch of cars. A lot of people don't know what it's like overseas. It's not like that. We don't have that luxury, but we do have the issue of not managing our money well. Like we don't have a financial literacy background unless that's what you were studying specifically, at your college, or that's what you liked. And when you're playing professionally, you're making millions of dollars and you buy a house and you lose your money, you kind of learn to a certain extent how you lose your money, right? So now you're paying taxes on these things. You have all these different expenses that you have to pay for. And you learn pretty quickly when you don't have any more money that maybe $1 million contract isn't exactly worth $1 million. But what people don't realize is there's a big difference overseas where everything you make is net and after expenses. So you don't learn those lessons until you don't have any money, or you have to go back to the US and have a regular job where now it's gross and you're having to pay for things. You're having to, pay for taxes. So if a player's making an X amount of dollars, that's going straight into his account every month. They're paying for his apartment, they're paying for his insurance, they're paying for his meals. So you don't get to learn the proper way of managing your money. And I learned that pretty quickly, not making very much money overseas at the start. So I was like, okay, how can I take what doesn't look like very much money and try and save it so that at some point, it's going to benefit me down the road and I can turn a little bit of money into maybe money that, actually means something at some point. But when I came across Joe's story about him being a Bay Area guy that played in Tucson, and me being a Tucson kid that played in the Bay Area, I was like, okay, there's one connection. And then hearing him talk about his overseas career being similar, kind of, jumping from 15 different countries in 3 years, not getting paid, getting cut, trying to make the NBA, not making it, all those things kind of tied back into like, I can really relate to this guy. And he's a guy that kind of always dreamed of maybe being a coach, but decided he could also be successful at something other than just the hands-on aspect of coaching basketball. So I became interested, I wanted to reach out to him, kind of share how his story, affected me. And I was able to get on a phone conversation with him and talk to him a little bit. And, he's an amazing guy, super helpful. Obviously, I'd love to, at some point, maybe work for him someday, but it's just a possible another, path that I've become interested in outside of just coaching and playing. that I've become a little more interested about that actually kind of got started from when I was playing at USF and studying business administration at the time.
Tim, I have already interviewed Frankie Ferrari, and I'll ask you the same question that I asked him. Did you keep up with the Dons? Did you watch what we did this season? And if so, just tell me your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I'm one of those Dons fans for life, and I've been keeping in touch and watching them since the day I left. And Kyle Smith did an unbelievable job. Todd Golden, like an incredible first year, and a lot of those guys we were recruiting when I was still in college. So I think it was like this year that Jimbo and Jordan and those guys graduated, and I recruited or helped recruit Jordan and Jimbo to USF. So they were kind of that final class that I actually personally knew. So there was definitely a little, you know, personal relationships there, and watching them grow up for 4 years and have all the success they had. I'd like to think that, I was a little part of that foundation that built that success, but I'm always talking to those guys. I'm, you know, always watching them and excited for their success.
Yeah, well, we're excited for your success and so proud of you. And I just wish you the best of luck.